Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Who Actually Knows podcast. Today's episode is going to be about something I like to call the quarter life crisis. And I went through one. Maybe I'll go through multiple. I don't know if there's a rule if you only go through one or if you go through two. But I went through a quarter life crisis, quarter life change maybe, because I feel like crisis is a little too negative for everything that I'm going to be talking about. And I actually don't find any of it to be negative. I think I had to go through it and make these changes. But the reason that I know that it was a quarter life crisis is because I was on the phone with my mom, and my mom and I are best friends. I call her multiple times a day. I'll call her on a walk. I will literally just be rambling. She sent me an Instagram reel, and she was like, or the girl on the reel was like, oh, when you call your mom so many times, like, okay, so like, what are you doing? Oh, you're drinking your coffee? Like, what did you put in your coffee? Like, I talk to her so much, it becomes one of those things that it's like the small conversations. Anyway, that was long-winded. We were on the phone, and I was talking with her about a bunch of things that were going on in my life. And I was like, Mom, I think I'm going through my quarter life crisis. And she goes, Emma, I can confirm that you are going through your quarter life crisis right now. And it's at the perfect time. I'm 24. I'm almost 25. This is like quarter life, I would say. I think it's on average. I think I'm running with like exactly what the universe wants on my like timeline. Because every single thing in my life has changed. Every single thing. If you would have told 2023 Emma everything that has changed in her life, that it was going to happen, I would have looked at you and been like, you're lying. Like, I have everything under control. I know exactly what this is going to look like for my future and the projection, and why I'm making these decisions that I am. Why am I choosing to move to LA? All of these things. And all of those things were a little bit like ripped out. And so I want to talk about that. And I want to talk about it, like I said, I don't think it's all negative. I think all of these things had to happen in my life. But I want to talk about the quarter life crisis of this age, and also like navigating change in the pivotal moments. Because I think when you're in your 20s, and at least this is my experience, and hopefully this resonates with someone else. When you're in your 20s, you're kind of looking for like that roadmap of, I should do this because I know this will happen. You're looking for like the answers. And I look for the answers. I still look for the answers sometimes. But like something that I realized in going through all this change was that there actually are no answers. And I think that's the scariest part of being in your 20s and being like, okay, well, I want, to go down this path or make this decision, but I don't know how it's going to play out. And everyone has experiences in their 20s like that. And you can ask people for advice and get all of these opinions, but at the same way, you don't know what it's going to look like. And so there's a lot of unknowns and gray areas. And I was in a gray area with like multiple things at different times. And like, we'll totally get into it. But those unknowns, that was like where my anxiety came from. Because it's essentially anxiety is worrying and stress over these unknown areas. And that's exactly like what I was doing. But I knew that something had to change. So we can start back of when I decided to move to LA, because I decided to move to LA. I knew I wanted to be in Chicago for 1 year post-grad, and I knew I was going to leave. I'm from the Midwest. I went to U of I lived in Chicago. There was just a point in time where I knew deep down that a change had to be made for me, and that would take me out of Chicago and challenge myself and push myself to achieve and kind of like lean into these things that I just feel like I couldn't do in Chicago. And so I always knew that I was going to leave, and I was between LA or New York. And I moved to LA because I wanted that lifestyle change. I studied abroad in Sydney, Australia. I wanted the sun and the ocean and the opportunity to be in a city, but have all of these other things outside of the city. At the same time, I had a serious boyfriend. And so he was in LA and he wasn't in New York. So that was a huge pull for me. We had been done long distance forever. And it was the time to try it out and move to LA and create, friends and find some alignment in my life that I felt like I had been missing. living closer to my boyfriend. I don't and have never lived with a boyfriend. And that was, I made all of those decisions when I was 23, turning 24. And I also had a job that I was doing financial consulting, and I was able to relocate that job. So all of these things felt like I had everything under control. I was making these decisions. Yes, there was unknown of like, am I going to like LA? Will I have friends? But all of these decisions I knew and felt very comfortable in. And fast forward into this year. And actually, I mean, it's kind of started like halfway through last year when things started to change. And like they do in your 20s, you know, you are trying to find how you want to spend your time, and you're navigating your 20s. Well, every single thing that I just talked about that I felt comfortable in was almost like ripped away. Not ripped away. That was so dramatic. Not ripped away. It just changed. And I chose the change. But I moved to LA. I still love LA. I'm still here. That has not changed. Phenomenal roommate. You guys have all heard her. That's great. Talked about the boyfriend. Broke up with the boyfriend. That happened in August of last year. So now this is February. So, and when that breakup happened, I felt like I had to almost redefine my experience in LA a little bit, because there was a new sense of loneliness. You know, one of the reasons I came to LA was to not do long distance with my boyfriend, and that was not ripped. Why do I keep saying that so dramatically? That changed. He moved out of LA, so all of a sudden this city felt like a little bit new to me, and that was exciting and confusing and scary at the same time. Around this time as well was my job, which I'm so fortunate to have had this financial consulting role right out of college where I could get my feet on the ground and be professional. That job and my project ended closer to the end of the year, so I was very slow. However, I also was not fully feeling like it was satisfying my needs from a career projection standpoint. I love to work hard and get my hands dirty and do all of that, and I did that for the company, but the career projection and interest that I wanted to be aligned with, I did not feel aligned with at all. And because work was slow, I wasn't feeling aligned. I started feeling like I didn't have a purpose, and that was really scary. And because I felt that a purpose was being taken away, and like, yes, I have this as a creative outlet, but this by no means is, you know, bringing in my money or paying my bills. This fulfills me in a different way. But having a purpose, you know, I think, you know, I don't want to say people's purposes are their jobs, because they're not. But because so many things were changing, everything felt like unknown, uncharted territory, including I would have a lot of time in my day and like downtime where I would just sit in my head, and that was not good for me at all. So I felt like I wasn't having a huge purpose, and because of that, some of my just excitement and interests were changing and evolving, and I just kept going into like, oh my God, like, why is this happening? Like, this is an unknown. Am I staying true to myself? How do I know if I am? Is this it? Like, am I going to, you know, be at this job and work hard for it for 2 years and then question everything, and then like maybe it'll get better and then I'll question things again? Like, is this the norm? Like, I don't know if I like this. Did I make a wrong decision? Am I putting myself in the right? Like, all of these questions were coming up, and it was really scary. I will say things that I've been proud of with the move and everything is that I have a great group of friends, and I leaned on them through these hard times. Just honestly, like, even if they didn't know if I was like totally going through all of these like, oh my God, existential questions, but to have them to just be able to like let go and laugh and sit and talk and hang and watch movies and do like the normal things, like go out with them, like any, you know, cook dinners, go on walks, go to yoga classes, go to brunches, get a coffee, like all those things that you do with your friends. Like, thank God I had that, because that like kept me grounded and made me feel so good in like a sense of normalcy. But now, and here's how, you know, I feel like it was a quarter life crisis, is I decided to make a change. And I think there's pivotal moments in your 20s where everyone's going to question what they're doing, right? And is this right for me? Am I aligned to myself? Is this it? Like, is working a 9 to 5 and then maybe going to work class and cooking dinner and sitting on your couch and watching Netflix, like, is that it? Is this what I want? How do I even know what I'm interested in? All of those are normal questions. And actually, I realized that too, especially after I put out my Dear Therapist episode. People were DMing me and reaching out and being like, thank you so much for talking about this stuff and this struggle that like not a lot of people talk about. And so I want, like, if you're listening to this and you might be asking yourself these like deeper questions that, you know, they're hard to sit with, but they need to be asked. No, it's normal. And like, try and listen to yourself for the answers, because that's what I had to do. And essentially it came to like those pivotal moments where I was like, I'm not aligned with myself or fulfilled, or maybe I could be like a little bit happier. I was like, I have to make a change. I had no idea how to make a change. I was like, I thought I did that when I moved to LA. I thought that moving to LA was making the decision to change. And 2023, Emma, no, you were wrong. Your life was going to change dramatically. And thank whoever's above. Like, seriously. Because last week, I had to make sure, I quit my job. I put my 2 weeks in and I quit. And I am fortunate to have another opportunity lined up. But around the time that I was questioning things with work and my purpose, I have two sides of my brain, as I always say. I have a very analytical side and then a very creative side. And I really wanted to flex that creative side. And I wasn't doing that at my job. And, you know, there are so many people at the company that I was at that were such big moments, but very big key players into who I am personally and professionally today. However, when I looked at them, I was like, you know, I don't strive for that. Like, I don't want to be in those leadership shoes. So I want to get into a position that is going to set me up where I feel fulfilled and I want to work and I want to see success and I want to have mentors and people that are above me or working next to me. And I'm like, you are driving me. You are doing this for me. And that's what I really wanted. And so I'm very fortunate that after I quit my job, I have this, you know, opportunity lined up. But when I was going through that of, oh my God, am I going to quit my job? I already moved to a new city, had to make new friends, had an amazing boyfriend and I broke up, started feeling unfulfilled with my job. Now I'm trying to quit the job. Like, so many things were just an unknown. And I don't want to sit here and preach about like how to handle it, because I don't really know and I'm still going through the changes. And I kind of wanted to talk about this in real time, because I don't want to come on here and point these things and be like, this is what you should do when you are going through changes. But something that I kept reminding myself and I kept talking about with, my therapist and my mom. Thank God, like, my mom is just as good as a therapist with literally a cheaper bill, maybe just a phone bill. But something that I kept telling myself and talked about was the victim mentality. And it's having that mentality that things are happening for you and they're not happening to you. And you have to trust yourself that you have the power to make these changes and you have the power to go through the struggles and get to the other side. And it's not saying that just because you have the power, they're all going to be sunshine and rainbows. It's going to be hard and it's going to be gray. And there are so many gray areas through these things. And it's just like hope and having faith in the unknown. And I've said this on the podcast, but having faith that there is another side of things and that things are going to change and be better. And if they're not, like, at least you learn something. And that's like something that's kept me through like this quarter life crisis. I was sitting on my couch like a week ago on the phone with my sister, and we just had our book club, and I was just so unfocused on the book club, and she calls me and I immediately just burst into tears. And I was like, I don't know exactly what's going on. Like, I'm waiting to hear back about X. I think I want to do this. I don't know if it's right. I don't know if this is going to happen so that I can do this. And it was just sitting by myself in those feelings, just venting to my sister. And what everyone kept saying is, you're so fortunate. And I knew I was so fortunate, but I was also so scared. And I think that's, there's a lot of anxiety, and I think that's normal, especially in the 20s. We don't have a clear roadmap to anything that we should do because it's so individual and so different. And so I hope if you are going through these changes or a quarter life crisis where you don't feel aligned and you don't feel like you have a purpose and you want to make those changes, you feel like you are empowered and can make those changes. And I mean, honestly, like I said, I've made the changes, but I'm still going through the process and seeing like what that looks like for me. Was it correct? Was it not? I have no idea. And I'm just keep reminding myself that this is normal. Everything I'm feeling is normal. Things are happening for me. They're not happening to me, and I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim of anything that I've done wrong. I'm not a victim of the changes. I'm just simply a girl going through them all. And I just want to remind you guys that it is okay to make those changes and feel the feels and do it. And in some way, you will learn these little tidbits of things that are true to you, or who are you going to lean on, or why do you want to make these changes? But don't silence the voice. Like, just because these things might come up and these questions and they're dark, don't silence them. You have to listen to them and address them and think about them and talk to them about yourself. And I hope it helps, and I hope it gets you to the other side, because like right now, from where I was when I was not feeling aligned to my job and having quit that job, I mean, honestly, like it was a great feeling, because I was like, this needed to happen, but I was afraid to do it. I don't even know, like I haven't started the new opportunity yet, but I knew that the thing that was making me and dragging me down needed to change, and I made the change. So go through the quarter life crisis and feel it and ask yourself those questions and make the changes, or don't, or do. But don't be the victim in your own story. And that's the biggest thing that I can talk about. And so, yeah, like I said, I don't have a lot of like, you should do this, but I wanted to talk about this in real time, because in your 20s, things are going to change, and they're changing for me, and they're probably changing for a lot of you. And so I hope you guys can relate, and let me know if you guys like this episode. The last 2 episodes have been more vulnerable, but I've been getting really good feedback. So I hope this just makes, a few more people feel less alone in the process. And with that, we will talk next week. Bye, guys.